Well, with Clark and Kat gone, the show trudges forward in what is the true start to the season. Hey guys, I'm for Supergirl, Season 2, Episode 3, Welcome to Earth, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. This season so far has been on fire. I think they've really just been impressing me so far. And like I said last week, very much kind of felt like a season finale. Now, I know obviously Clark was only in 2 episodes, but it felt like he was there longer. The way that they kept him on the show, it just felt like the dynamic really worked out. I was surprised to see that go as early as it did, but in many ways, it did kind of feel like the end of the first part of the show, and now we're going into this more confident, more interesting second season of the show that I definitely am really liking. Did this episode work as a season premiere? No, it definitely was not a season premiere, but it did feel like this is the true start to the season. Like, this is where things are actually going to start happening. A lot of great directions are going, and I mean, the show's going in some really great directions. We get introduced to some great new characters in this episode, and just overall, I'm really loving where the season is going. But let's just get into this episode because I'm loving what I'm seeing of this season so far, and if they keep this up, Supergirl could end up possibly being better than The Flash and Arrow, because Flash is good this season, not great, it's good, and Arrow is good this season, it's not great, but Supergirl right now is great. It could end up being the best of the 4 CW shows for this season, and I know we're only 3 episodes in, but they seem to be the most confident, they seem to be the most promising of the bunch, and I definitely really do like that. So, we start off, we see right where the last episode left off with Mon-El tossing Supergirl through the window of the medical bay of the DEO. He shows signs of super strength and super speed before jumping out of the building and into the streets of National City. Just right away, off to a great start. And in the aftermath, you know, we don't really know what happened there. I thought that was pretty crazy. Unfortunately, the DEO is unsuccessful in stopping him from escaping the complex, and John then comments how the timing couldn't have been worse. They just have turned all their kryptonite over to Superman because they could have used, the kryptonite to subdue him, but of course, you know, Clark was so intent on them getting rid of the kryptonite, and they turned it all over to him, so obviously, this is now going to be a problem, and I said it was going to be a problem last week, it already is a problem, and I like seeing that. So, we see that we find in this episode that the president is arriving, which the president is, in fact, a woman in this, not just anyone, it's actually Linda Carter, and she's about to announce a new executive order allowing aliens to come out of the shadows and become full citizens of the U.S., and John isn't too keen in this, to say the least. You know, definitely, Kara's a little bit nervous to learn the president expects Supergirl to be there at her arrival, but we see that John really isn't that happy. You know, he feels that this isn't the right time to do it. He feels that people are frightened by them, and that this is just going to make them more of a target. He feels that this is definitely not a good idea, and I like the way we're starting to see more character-driven stories. I think we're definitely seeing that this season. Last season was very focused on, okay, let's just get the villain of the week, let's get all the spectacle out there. And this season, we know what the show is, and we know how great these characters are. Sorry guys, I was interrupted there, but like I said, we know how great these characters are. We know what they're doing with these characters, and because of that, we're getting much more interesting stories and a lot more interesting dynamics, and I think they're realizing what we loved about the show last season isn't... The spectacle was great, yes, but the weakest part of last season, let's face it, was the villains. I think that was the weakest part. There's a reason why they're not focusing on that, Tom. What we like about the show is the characters, and what the characters did, the tone, the overall tone the show had. That's really working this season, and definitely seems to be a lot more in play, and you definitely do see that in this episode. Then we get to one of the most interesting plot points of last week. As we know, James is now the head of Catco. Cat, of course, has taken a sabbatical, and James is now taken over. And I will admit, it is weird to see James in this position, but I'm slowly getting used to it. I like seeing him here. You see this more friendship-type dynamic between him and Kara, and I like it. I honestly like that they've changed things up. Just like the fact that I'm getting used to that Win is at, is now at DEO. Again, he still feels very much like Cisco 2.0, but I like the direction they're headed with him. We see James is requesting headline pitches for the president's upcoming arrival, and it quickly becomes clear that Snapper and James have very different working styles. I mean, Snapper is very direct, and he will, basically chew you out if you do something wrong, and that's just who he is. He's a very direct guy. He's kind of a dick. I will definitely say that. He definitely is a dick, but James is very nuanced, and he likes to get the point across in a way that it doesn't sound as threatening as Snapper is, and I like seeing these two have very different type of styles, and they don't appreciate each other's styles. Like, Snapper literally takes over the meeting because he does not like the way that James is constructing it, and Snapper has no, he has no value to do that. He can't do that. James, of course, is the boss right now. Snapper can't really take over. I know Snapper thinks he can do that, but already, I'm looking forward to seeing where this is going to go, so I think this is definitely interesting. It adds more stuff to James than just him trying to get with Kara, which I like. Last season, it seemed like that's all he was there for, and I like that there's more to that. So Kara gets assigned to interview Lena Luthor about her brother's ideas about the new alien law, and I like that Lena Luthor is still out there. I like the way that was done. I liked knowing that Kara, like I said, she's a reporter and everything. I like that we're seeing that, and I really did like the way that, that was done, everything. But Supergirl then lands in front of Air Force One right as the president, who is played by Linda Carter, which it is awesome to see Linda Carter on the show. It is Wonder Woman, and for a while, Wonder Woman was the only superhero show that starred a woman, and now Supergirl has done that, and I think this was just a great way of just showing how far they've come in terms of television. I mean, back in the 70s, it was hard for women to get good roles, and she got a great role. We know her as Wonder Woman, and I think Melissa Benoist, I see her as two things. I still kind of see her as Marley from Glee, just because that's how I was introduced to her, and I think I always will kind of see her that way, but I do see her as Supergirl. Definitely, I've seen her in this role. She's convinced me that she's Supergirl, and I think they did a very good job of comparing those two. Now, obviously not in this episode, but just kind of showing how far they've come, and just showing her go from Wonder Woman to now playing the President of the United States. It's just that there's not much more of a launch there. I thought that was really cool. But she steps out of the plane. Unfortunately, an unseen alien starts shooting fireballs to the President. Two Secret Service guards are incinerated, but Supergirl saves the President from getting hit just in time, and literally it seems like the President is about to die. Pretty crazy the way that was done. I was surprised she was able to save the President, but she does, in fact, save her, and I like seeing that. I thought that overall was really well done the way she did that, but just knowing that the President's in danger really to show how much higher stakes this season really is. So the DO does handle the clean of the attack, but then we get introduced to our other main character of the season besides Mon-El, Maggie Sawyer, who I really like this character. This is a character that is of the Science Police. She's not working with the DEO, and she is in fact a lesbian. But I like the fact that they didn't really make a big deal of it. But, she's a lesbian, they're just not really going to talk about it. And I'm fine. What I mean by not talking about it, like, obviously you're going to bring up the fact that she's a lesbian, but they're not, like, throwing it in your face, because that's just not how it is. I think it's a more realistic way to have a character that's gay and not completely say that they're gay over and over again like so many shows do, because that's just not a realistic way of doing it. I mean, if someone's gay, we're supposed to treat them like, equally. Throwing it in our face doesn't really help that. I feel like this is more the way of doing it, and I like the way they did that here. I thought overall, her character in general, I really do like. I like the direction they're headed with her. But Alex tells, we see that basically what ends up happening, there's definitely some interesting tension between Alex and, Sawyer. You can definitely see that here. She says she investigates crimes involving alien visitors, and obviously the way that she looks at something is not really the way that Alex looks at it. And Alex poses as a Secret Service member and tells her that the crime scene is in her jurisdiction, and I think overall it's going to be very interesting to see the way things go between these two, because again, they have very different viewpoints. I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. Just as interested as I am for the feud between, Snapp and James. I think they're very similar feuds, but they're not. And the President visits the DEO, has a discussion with John over her new alien law. Supergirl fangirls over the President because obviously it's the President. I mean, anyone being the President, it's a huge deal, but I do like that Kara is in fact pretty nerdy. I do like the way that's done. I've always liked that about Kara, that even though she is this, famous superhero that saves a lot of people, she in general is very nerdy, and I've always really liked that about her character. But she learns that John is against the Alien Amnesty Act due to the high number of alien threats that exist, and he feels that it's just not a good idea, that there are, this is just basically, letting more aliens in. That's all this is going to do. By letting aliens in, it's just going to make things even worse, and he really is very inherently against it. And I like that she is, that he's not okay with that. But before she rushes to the interview with Lena, Lena quickly susses out the reason for Kara's visit. She shows her an alien detector that will allow humans to find out if aliens are hiding among them, which again, very interesting. Kind of reminds me of the Inhuman detector, which you guys know how awesome I think that is. I kind of fanboyed about that. I'm not a fanboy by any means, but when I get really excited about something in a TV show, you guys know when I get really excited about it. And Lena explains that humans have a right to know if their neighbor is a human or an alien, but when Lena demonstrates how to use the test, Kara sabotages the device with her heat vision to keep her secret identity safe, and I like the way that that was done. I like the way that she was able to sabotage the device and everything, so really good stuff there. So we don't see a ton of Win in this episode, but we do see that Win does track Mon-El to an abandoned warehouse, so Alex leads a squad to hunt him in. At this point, they feel that Mon-El is the one that's guilty. I mean, he was the one that was from the planet. He is, in fact, an alien. They feel that he's there to be, he's there to attack them. And, however, by the time she gets there, there's only Maggie Sawyer waiting there for her. Maggie's right there, and like I said, her and Maggie really do not see eye to eye. You definitely do see. I think overall, their plot, the way that that's going, I think overall is very interesting. But back at Catco, we see that Snapper criticizes Kara's writing style, how for including her personal bias, and demands a rewrites. And I get what he's saying. I really do. I get that he's saying that, look, when you put in an article, it shouldn't be your personal opinion. It should be stating facts. That's what he feels. He feels that when you write something with journalism, it should be with facts, and it should be a very factual review, and shouldn't necessarily reflect your opinion. I feel that's bullshit. I really do. I think when you write a report, one of the most important things to put in is to put your emotion and show the emotion in there. I mean, that's what I try to do in my reviews. I try to give you guys as much emotion and my personal thoughts as possible. I think it's honestly the most important thing when you're doing something, but I mean, Snapper sees the way, which I get it, but I just completely disagree, honestly. I completely disagree, but I get it. If that makes any sense, that's just how I see it, but either way, we see James express his doubt at being able to fill Cat's shoes. Kara tells him to be his own boss instead of another Cat, and I completely agree. I mean, he's not Cat. That's the thing. As much as James wants to be, he's not Cat. He's a very different person, and he can't try to be what Cat was. Cat just was Cat, and he's not Cat. And I like the way that Kara's telling him, don't be Cat, be your own person. I like the way that that overall is going. But Alex then meets up with Sawyer, we see. She calls her up, asks if she wants to see how the police handle detective work. And basically, she meets the safe haven for alien visitors disguised as a dive bar. And Snapper then rips Kara... Oh, I just read this. So basically... she takes Alex to a dive bar that serves aliens, and she says that she frequents the bar because she can relate more to aliens, as she was pretty lonely as a non-straight, non-white girl growing up in Nebraska. And again, a very subtle way of explaining that she's a lesbian. I like the way that was going, and obviously, things were very different for her there. So one of Maggie's contacts reveals that Mon-El is trying to send a signal home, and as Alex leaves the bar, she runs into a redhead who starts boiling her drink, thus revealing that she's actually the person behind the attacks. And I like this. I like that it wasn't Mon-El behind it, because I want to like Mon-El's character. They could have been very predictable to do that, but I like that in general it wasn't Mon-El. I like that it was this other girl that we did not know, and I think overall that was interesting. That is the perfect way to do a single type story, because this isn't at all that. And they're doing a good job in all of these shows pretty much this year. Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, with taking characters that you think are going to be bad and making them actually allies, and I like the way they're doing that. But Wynn then finds out that Mon-El isn't trying to signal Krypton, he's actually signaling Daxam instead, which is where he's from, where Kara's from, where pretty much anyone from, Krypton is, and Supergirl has her trace the signal and quickly flies in to beat him down. So with Mono now in prison at the DEO, Supergirl reveals that Daxam and Krypton actually have a very bloody past. Even though they're sister planets, Supergirl, they do have a very bloody past against each other. Basically, we find out that they fought each other in a great war that took many lives, and basically Krypton was a democracy whose views differed from Daxam, that was ruled as a monarchy. And the way the show's kind of becoming political, I think, is overall really interesting. Supergirl attempts to question the Daxamite, making her feelings towards his race quite clear. He denies wanting to harm anyone. I like the way the scene was done, because you have two people who really should not at all be interacting because they're very against each other, but I like the way that they're basically forced to join forces. She tries to interrogate Mon-El about his alleged attack on the president. He claims to not even know what a president is, which makes sense, obviously, from where he's from. He just came from Daxam, a planet that's not Earth, and I like that he is in complete denial about what's going on. He doesn't even know what that is, and Kara doesn't share with him that his planet is no more, because it's gone. There's no way that Daxam is there anymore, and I think overall that's very interesting. But John mentions to Kara that she didn't tell Mon-El about his president's fates, and obviously this is something that he should know, and I like that John is telling her, look, even though we don't like him, he should be in the loop about this. I like that overall. But Kara then meets with Lena, who compliments her on the article. Kara admits that she wrote a much more scathing article, but that she learned to appreciate Lena's view thanks in part to her recent battle with Mon-El, that she did find a way to kind of see through her. So I like the way that just like she is starting to understand Mon-El, she's also understanding Lena. Even though Lena Luthor is the daughter of Lex Luthor, she's not at all like Lex, and I like that. So the next day, Supergirl, Sawyer, and Alex attend the president's newest speech, and as the president tries to sign her executive order into law, the fiery redhead attacks. We don't know her name, but Kara saves the president once again, but the redhead escapes with Sawyer as her captive. She blames herself for the attack as she was blinded by her hunt by the Daxamite, but Alex recognized the attack from the bar. When she visits the bar, she finds that the redhead actually hangs out by the local foundry, and Sawyer finds out that the alien's attacking the president because she believes her bill will force aliens to register with the government, and basically, that's why she's doing this. So, Supergirl and Alex arrive to rescue Sawyer. Although the alien initially gets the upper hand on Supergirl, Supergirl uses her super speed to snuff at her flames, and then Sawyer knocks her out with a pole. I like the way that Sawyer actually got to kick some ass here. This was pretty cool, the way this was done. And I like that we actually saw that. Once again, the president is safe, but, you know, the president's safe, but Sawyer obviously is taking it. And I thought that was actually a pretty sick fight, the way it was done. I like the way that was. But the next day, James reassures himself as the head of Catco and as Snapper's boss, and you know, he's willing to put up with shit. Even though he doesn't want to, he's going to, and I like seeing that. I like that in the end, he didn't just take shit from, you know, Snapper. He is, in fact, going to listen to him, even though he doesn't necessarily agree with his beliefs. And I think that's something this episode really does have to do with. Even though these characters might not believe with the other person's viewpoints, they have to respect them. They have to understand where they're coming from, and that's definitely something a lot of them don't want to do, but that they essentially have to do, and I like the way that was done here. But meanwhile, Sawyer and Alex then bond for a little bit at the DEO before Maggie leaves on a date, and while Supergirl releases Mon-El and apologizes to him, they introduce themselves before Kara tells Mon-El that Daxon was ravaged by solar storms in the aftermath of Krypton's destruction, and this is really her way of opening up to him and getting him to know who she really is and really getting on each other's side, and I really did like that. But she lets him know that it's you know, that she shouldn't judge him based on past issues between their worlds, and that she's willing to put all that aside. Even though these two shouldn't be interacting, they are, and I like that. But the Daxamite gives him his name as Mon-El, and after asking if Kara can help him get in touch with his homeworld, Kara has to break the bad news that Daxon was destroyed by solar storms from Krypton's fallout. But I like that she did come clean to him about that. I like the way that was done. I'm looking forward to actually seeing these two interact. I think even though we're not seeing Superman, Mon-El is sort of the next best thing, and I'm thinking these two are going to team up and we're going to start to see things there. But Mon-El is a lot more out of the loop than Kara is, and I think overall that's going to be very interesting. But the president finally gets to sign her bill into law, thanks both Supergirl and John for their help. Even though John didn't agree, he essentially realized where she was coming from. So as the president leaves, her eyes turn silver, her skin turns red, revealing that she's actually an alien herself, and that is why she wants to place this law, which is an amazing twist. I can't wait to see where this is going to go. I mean, I had no idea that's where we're going, but it makes sense. I mean, there are so many aliens in the world, it would make sense why she could be an alien. Now, we don't know exactly what she is or who she is or how she got here, but she definitely isn't human, and I love that. I love that twist overall, and I can't wait to see where that's going to go. And it shows me that this isn't just a one-time character. Linda Carter is going to be on for more seasons or more episodes, and I can't wait to see where they're going to go with that. So deciding to take the president up on her advice, John decides to visit the safe haven in his actual form, and he's trying to take the president's advice to live a little. When he tries to order a drink, the bartender seems to recognize him, tells him to, you know, be human. He quickly leaves. John then chases after her, and she reveals herself to be none other than Miss Martian herself, the last daughter of Mars, who is in fact related to Martian Manhunter, and that is how the episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode because I definitely do have a lot to say about where we're going to go from here. So overall, a lot of really interesting stuff going on in this one. I really do love the way that this season is going so far. Let's talk about this Miss Martian thing, because I definitely think we're going to get one of those John-centric episodes next week. I don't know how or what exactly it's going to be, but I think overall that's going to be very interesting. There's clearly a lot that she's hiding. We don't know what she's hiding, but I think overall that's going to be interesting where Miss Martian's going to go. We've had hints that she's going to be on. I didn't think it was going to be this soon, but I'm looking forward to seeing where they're really headed with this character, Miss Martian, overall, where her backstory ties into John. These two clearly do know each other, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. As far as Sawyer and Alex, I mean, these two clearly do have a history. You definitely do see that. You know, obviously Sawyer doesn't know what Alex is doing, but these two definitely have some sort of a relationship. We don't know what that's going to be like, but Alex definitely thinks very differently than Sawyer, and I think we're definitely going to see that very well here now. I'm looking forward to seeing where that's really going to go, because I think overall that whole plot's really interesting, especially the fact that Sawyer is so inherently against aliens, and that she is, you know, kind of trying to subdue them while Alex is trying to help them. I just overall find those two viewpoints very compelling, and I really do love the way that's going going. It reminds me a lot of Civil War. One of the things that drove Civil War was not so much the clashing, it was more the ideals of both the characters, what the reason was why they clashed, what their motives really were. I just find that stuff really compelling, and this is a perfect example of that. I really love where that's headed. Mon-El and Kara, I like that Kara did in fact open up to him, told him who she was, but now that she knows who Mon-El is, the big question is what's really going to happen from here. These two clearly are, I think, going to join forces. I think there's definitely going to be a team up of sorts from these two. But I don't really know. I'm looking forward to seeing where we're going to go with this. I'm definitely on board. I like seeing Mon-El's character, and I like that he's not a villain. I like that also, my most interesting thing about him, though, that I like the most in this episode, that he's very out of the loop on things. He said straight out, I don't know what a president is, and I completely believe him. I mean, we know that he's a good guy. We know that he seems to be on a good side, so I'm thinking that he's serious when he tells Kara, I don't know what a president is, because, he was on a completely different planet this time. He was on Daxam, and he just recently crash landed from Daxam, and I'm looking forward to seeing the way their whole dynamic is going to be, because definitely it's going to be different. I mean, Kara is just a lot more in the loop about things. She knows the way the world is. He doesn't, and that's something that's going to be very compelling, is the way that these two end up working together. She might end up training him. I don't really know, but I think overall that's going to be really interesting. Can't wait to see where that's going to go. Definitely one of the most compelling arcs moving forward. Can't wait to see the way that's going to be, if she's going to train him or if he already knows stuff. I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff that she doesn't know that he's going to teach her and she's going to teach him, and I think overall that's just a very interesting dynamic. And this is the perfect way to get rid of Clark, but keep kind of like a part of Clark on the show. I mean, yeah, Clark can't be there, but the best next thing is Mon-El. Yes, Mon-El is from a different planet, but they both have the same type of strength. They both have superpowers. They're both aliens, and if we can't get Supergirl and Superman every week, I'm fine with Supergirl and Mon-El. I think it's going to be fine, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. Snapper, I'm not a fan of Snapper, as you guys know, but I understand where he's coming from. I do. I get that he's very straightforward. I get that he's very direct, and yes, it's a lot for Kara to handle. She's definitely not used to it, but I understand where he's coming from. I honestly do. I get that he is a dick. I will admit that he is a dick. I don't really like his character at first. This episode, I'm starting to warm up a little more to him. I understand where he's coming from. I don't really like him necessarily, but I do understand what he's talking about when he's telling Kara, what he is. I kind of understand what that's all about. I don't really like him, but I understand where he's coming from. The president being an alien is a very compelling arc that I don't really know where that's going to go. Is she somehow connected to Mon-El, or is she connected to John, or is she connected to an entirely different planet all her own? Definitely, I think we're getting more into the backstory of Krypton and of Daxam, and just knowing these little things about Krypton and Daxam, we're definitely going to see where that's going. We still don't have a villain for this season, and I'm sure that's going to come up soon, but we don't have one, and I don't know if the president is going to be said villain, but if that's where we're headed, that's going to be very interesting. If she does end up being the villain, I don't really know. I know that James is going to go, not in an antagonistic direction. I know he's turning into something, I don't remember what, but he's definitely going into some sort of a direction. We'll have to see what's going to happen with that. Again, I don't read the comics. Maybe Miss Martian could be the villain. I don't read comics, so you guys know the show is the reason why I just don't want to do that, but overall, guys, I really do love this episode. I really do love where the show is headed. I also like the scene between Kara and Lena where Kara realized why Snapper felt the way he did. I think overall that's going to be interesting. But James and Snapper is going to be a problem. I mean, Snapper clearly wants James's job, and I don't know if James, he definitely feels like he's ready to be, the new cat, but he's not the new cat. And I like that he realized that he's not the new cat, but at the same time, does Snapper feel like he's as qualified? Snapper really doesn't have a say. James is the boss. Cat gave him his position for a reason. He doesn't really have a say in this, but at the same time, he kind of does, so I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. Overall, guys, really great episode. Really did love where the show is headed overall. I'm just overall really enjoying this season. I think there's just really promising stuff going on here between Mon-El and Sawyer and just everything going on in this episode, really to show that even when you take away Cat and you take away Clark, this season is still going to be just as compelling, and I'm completely fine with that. I was worried about this episode. I honestly was. I thought we were going to head in a very cliche, just as confident, but very cliche and messy direction, and I like that we're not there at all. I like that things are much more contained. Things seem to be a lot more focused and just overall a lot more interesting, and I can't wait to see where they're going to go this season. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. What do you think of the season so far? And we'll see you guys in my next one, which will be for one of two things, either a movie review or will be for reviews tonight's episode of The Flash. There's no Scream Queens tonight. I'm going to wait a week to review last week's episode, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.